Hi, I'm Ben.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Bad Magic Podcast, a podcast about games, life, and other things. And welcome to episode 153.
Listeners, this is a fun fact for you. We are coming to you semi-live from Las Vegas, Nevada. We've been pimping this for, how many weeks or months?
Yeah, several episodes.
Yeah, several episodes. And what's great about seeing Ben is all of the random nonsense that I get to deal with. For example, today's episode is brought to you by the number 153, which is the number of disc golf discs that Ben decided to bring with him, even though this is a magic weekend.
Josh, that is the number of disc golf discs I have so far.
There's no chance that you have 100. You really do? Okay, all right, I'm turning the joke off. Like the backslash with the HTML / joke. Ben, do you seriously have over 100 disc golf discs?
So I did a event at work where we got to take some time off work and go do a morale event where we just did some stuff together.
Mr. Senator, I'm going to have to ask you to answer yes or no to my question.
I have a reason I know this because it's like, Josh, how many Magic cards do you have? I don't know. I never sit down and count them.
Less than my wife thinks I have.
How many disc golf discs do I have? Well, when we did this event, I numbered them so that I'd know that I got them all back. And I got up into the 70s, and I bought some since then. So the number is not 153, but it could be.
So you have 153 halves of discs.
Yeah.
There you go.
So brought to you by the number 153. Josh, so it's kind of historic that we're here in Las Vegas in the Westgate Hotel next to the Las Vegas Convention Center.
Westgate sponsors the podcast.
Because we started the podcast here 6 years ago.
Yeah.
In a room like this one. Not this one. The one we had then was overlooking the pool. Now we're overlooking the, what's that big round thing called?
The Sphere.
The Sphere.
I like the pool better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on the 14th floor overlooking the Sphere and the monorail and the convention center and reflecting on 2 days of magic and some stuff. So from last time we talked about...
So I mentioned in the passing that vanilla is the finest of the flavors, which I will maintain. I will die on that hill, and I will kill anybody else that wants to attack me on that hill.
What if it's the bare naked ladies?
They agree.
Okay.
They're in line with me. This is the phalanx of vanilla defenders on this hill. And one of the Redditors asked specifically, okay, is it vanilla, like plain Jane vanilla, or vanilla bean? And they are right to ask that question. Because
there is a distinction between the two.
They are different, yes. And I will say that I universally like all plain vanillas.
Really?
But vanilla bean can be hit or miss. I don't know if it's a texture thing or what, but some people just go too hard.
But if it's hit, is it better than plain Jane vanilla?
Ooh, if it is a hit, it is better. It does feel posher than just like a plain Jane vanilla.
See, for me, it's contextual. Like if I'm gonna put a scoop of vanilla on top of my warm apple pie, I want vanilla bean. If I'm gonna put a scoop in a root beer float, I want plain Jane vanilla.
I'm going to make an analogy that you have no idea what this means, okay?
Okay.
But for everyone else that listens to this podcast, maybe they will too, okay? So the idea is that when you get fancy liquors, okay, you can get what's called the blends or you can get the single barrels. And the blend is what they have the master taste testers going through, testing these hundreds of batches. And they're like, oh, you need to mix a little bit of number 3 with a little bit of number 76. And so it evens out. And they make sure that all of everything that gets bottled tastes the same regardless of the process that it went through. But a single barrel is the same stuff coming from the same manufacturer, but they don't check it. And
it's a small enough batch and there's enough variance that it could taste different than the last one?
It's not that it can, it will, and it always does. It is still the thing that you bought, and like you can tell that it is, but it's going to be a little bit different. And they can miss and they can hit, but when they hit, they are so much better than the blend that you just bought.
So do you find yourself chasing the dragon with that? You get a bad one, you're like...
on my personal bar at home, I don't know if you know this about me, but I do keep a bar at home, and we are big into bourbon. We have it's probably more than 10 different types of bourbon in different bottles sitting on that bar. And my wife's go-to blend is Four Roses, and for good reason. Like, it's a solid choice every time. But we've also had a couple of bottles of Four Roses single barrel that either we've been gifted or that we've purchased because I think the two that we've drank have both hit really, really well. And it's just like Four Roses plus.
Okay.
Four Roses sponsor the podcast.
So it's always good, but you're still kind of chasing the dragon.
Still kind of. We'll still drink the blend, no problem. So, like, if we're gonna sit down, if I'm gonna mix this with like some, It just depends on the mood, Ben. Like, there's a whole science to this that you're just not even, like, a part of. It's like a culture thing. If I'm going to mix it with Coke, then who cares? I'll just get the bottom of the barrel stuff, and nobody bothers. But if I'm going to go to my freezer, and I'm going to get one of my spherical ice cubes, and I'm going to shave the top off so it's actually a perfect sphere, I'm going to put it in my drink, I'm going to measure out my coffee liqueur, I'm going to put a couple dashes of orange bitters in there, and I'm going to put my 2.5 ounces of bourbon to make my favorite mixed drink, which is called a revolver, I'm going to use the good stuff.
I was going to ask you what that drink's called, but you answered my question. Did you see the question on my face? Listeners, this is what you get from having us in the same room.
Yeah, this is going to be a more dynamic podcast.
Okay, nice. Well, that settles the debate on vanilla. What about the other flavors?
Well, screw the other flavors. Oh, no, that's not true. Chocolate, I don't care for chocolate. Strawberry is good. Strawberry is my go-to flavor if I want something a little that's not so plain Jane. Like, for example, you go to like a Cold Stone, I'll usually get some kind of strawberry mixed flavor.
Okay.
Now, I want to bring up, I always bring this up, and I'm going to bring it up again. I'm a 41-year-old man, and I am referencing a Cartoon Network children's show from 20 years ago.
Wait. Before you do that, is your family one of the families that buys Neapolitan ice cream and like eats 2 of the 3 flavors, and the third one sits there and no one touches it?
When we go to In-N-Out, because they do the 3 flavors of milkshake, right?
Uh-huh.
My son and my wife both get Neapolitan shakes, and my daughter gets half vanilla, half strawberry. And I abstain. I get a root beer float.
Nice.
So that's probably in my top 5 favorite foods of all time. Pizza and root beer floats. Just I couldn't live without them. Where was I? Oh, yes. Children's show from 20 years ago. The Kids Next Door. There's a whole episode where there's this junk food aficionado in their crew. And they talk about the 3 primary flavors of ice cream: chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry.
Okay.
And she's on an Indiana Jones rip-off parody quest to discover the 4th flavor.
Okay, so are they making some kind of fundamental argument that those all other ice cream flavors are derived from chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry?
Not derived from, but subservient to. All other flavors are inferior to the big 3.
Did they find the 4th flavor?
They found the 4th flavor, and they did the classic thing where it was an Indiana Jones deal where they found this temple, and it was in this frozen Arctic glacier, and it was all perfectly contained. But if you weren't pure of heart trying to taste it, then the whole place started to collapse, right? And then the bad guy, who was like a German ripoff with a monocle, like he tried to eat it, and the whole place started to collapse and fall to pieces. And at the end of it, our protagonist barely escapes with her life, and finds that there's this tiny little scoop of it that's like got stuck in her hat when she goes and finds it. And she picks it up and she puts it on her finger and she licks it. She goes, "Oh, wow, this tastes just like..." Cut to black in credits.
Wow. All right. Well, then it falls upon us here on the Bad at Magic podcast to name what it was. What is the 4th flavor of ice cream?
Okay. Controversial. I think it's going to be like an orange sorbet or like an orange sherbet or something.
Huh.
Like a citrusy flavor.
I would say maybe pistachio. Like in Europe, that's a really popular flavor of ice cream.
Really? Is it? But is it?
Every Italian gelateria has one of those like green pistachio flavors.
I will say, from an aesthetic standpoint, that would fit well with the other colors.
With the pink and the brown and the white.
I'll tell you what, we are really conquering and tackling the hard questions here today.
Okay, good. Well, then let's take on a less difficult question, and let's talk about the No Kings mass protest that happened on the 14th of June in the United States of America.
Yeah, you went. You posted some stuff.
I thought you might too. What happened?
What happened was real life. My daughter had to go to a birthday party. We had to go to like excuses. Excuses. I love that. Ben.
I love that because it feels like we're still in a moment where something bad is happening and we need to do something about it, but it isn't bad enough yet that it's not optional.
All right, so if you want to hear my real thing, there was a non-zero concern that like if we went, we would be arrested by some law enforcement agency.
And you're not willing to risk that yet?
And even the tiny possibility of that happening, like the negative consequences were too high.
My brother messaged me and discouraged us from going because he's worried about safety and security, which is funny because at one of the mass protests in Salt Lake City, which is not where I went, but very near where I live, innocent person was shot and died.
You see, that's the kind of thing.
Did you know about this?
I did not know about this.
There was a guy that had a gun, and the police tackled him, and some shots got fired, and a bystander got hit and killed.
There was most of the people that got arrested in the Phoenix protests were counter protesters. They were like hardcore red hat MAGA Republicans that were rabble rousing.
Man, there was so much that happened that day, and I don't want to talk about all of it, like the military parade in Washington for the president's birthday and those kind of things. But I went to Provo, Utah, which is, I think Utah averages being the most red of any of the states as far as their voting record is concerned. But they've also backed off a little bit with the recent elections because there's a little bit of division over the specific candidates. And when we saw that there was going to be 3 protests in our region, there was one in downtown Salt Lake, one at the University of Utah, and one in Provo, Utah, which is where I went to college. And I was kind of halfway living between the two. I'm like, let's go down to Provo. So we went down to the city, the steps of Town Hall on Provo Center Street, and it's beautiful. Got the mountain backdrop, and it's a really nice modern building. And we got there, and there was already 200 people chanting, holding up signs. They weren't like the chants in Boston where it's like F the opposition. They were very Utah chants. They wanted to keep it friendly for people like me that showed up and don't want to shout the F word. So
please be more polite. Please be more polite.
Yeah, we were saying things like no kings, no kings, and
there's 2 beats there. You should be putting other words in.
That's a time-honored tradition in many other places outside of Utah. We brought our sign. So the night before, my sister who's visiting from Illinois and her kids, and me and my kids, and my other sister who lives in town, who's the artist that created the logo for our show, came over and heard there was going to be an art party, and she wanted to be involved. So we all got out big pieces of poster board and pre-sketched out and designed all of our slogans. My favorite, Chef's Kiss, was my nephew that did one called Herd Island. And it just showed a penguin standing on a piece of ice with some boxes labeled tea floating in the water in front of him. That was it. Low key, it was like a penguin having a tea party. And this was the notorious Penguin Island that was levied tariffs in Trump's first round of tariffs.
Okay. That's deep cut. I didn't get it at first.
I know. No one did. I don't think anyone got it, but it was my favorite.
Those are tough. Listen, I've done Halloween costumes where nobody gets it but me, and I still like the costume, but it hurts a little bit.
My sister quoted the presidential oath of office about upholding the Constitution.
What's that? We don't care about that.
I quoted a Latter-day Saint scripture that talks about an ancient king that corrupted the land because he led the people away into unrighteousness and wickedness. And I figured my crowd would get it, and a lot of people did. I got lots of comments, unlike my nephew's awesome Herd Island one. So we went out, stood on the steps, chanted slogans for about an hour, and then the teenagers started sitting down. Nothing really happened. More people showed up. The chants got louder. I did a little video and some photos that I'll post on the in the show notes. But then we walked across the street to the farmer's market, had a glass of fresh lemonade, and drove home. It was very orderly, very low key, but it also felt like kind of participating in something important.
Yeah, okay, let's talk about that for a second, because that, I said the non-zero, I don't want to go to jail. Here's another non-zero. What do we do? What do we accomplish here? Like, what did my giving up my Saturday, what agency did that do?
My 15-year-old daughter and my 17-year-old daughter were there, and they made posters, and they came, and this was their first time participating in something like that. And we're fighting for the rule of law, the upholding of the Constitution of the United States of America.
But we're not fighting for anything. We're standing on the town hall steps, making a nuisance of ourselves for a few hours.
Yes, and we weren't making a nuisance of ourselves. We were obeying traffic laws and giving each other bottles of water and snacks, and it was all very orderly and polite.
Fair enough. It was Provo, Utah. Yeah, I'm sure it was fine. You probably picked up more litter than you made.
But we were there with 6 teenagers and 3 adults, and we just participated in exercising our right to peaceably assemble and voice our opposition to the government. And then we went home and saw on the news hundreds of thousands of people gathered in all major cities across the nation. And it didn't look like something that someone else did. It was something we did too.
And I'm struggling because I don't want to burst your bubble, because I agree with you. It is important that we have these rights. But I'm still going to ask the same question, like, what happened? Because, like millions of people protested this thing. It was the largest organized demonstration in
U.S. history.
In U.S. history.
Yep.
And the next day was exactly the same as the day before.
But you know how sometimes people get cynical about our government and say, oh, my vote doesn't count. I live in a red state. If I vote blue, it's not going to matter. This felt like my vote counted. Like
it felt, Ben, but nothing actually changed.
But those feelings matter. They need to change.
Feelings
they give
matter.
People that maybe are in a position of power and are waiting for the impetus to do something brave, the courage they need because they feel like people are behind them.
Okay. You know what? All right, you sold me on that one because there's a young woman in southern Arizona that I'm now following on TikTok. She is in her mid-20s and she is running for for Congress, for U.S. Congress in her district, and she is doing it because she's straight up just fed up with what's going on in politics right now. And so, okay, you sold me with that thing. Maybe in the aggregate, like these protests then changed the minds or created some motivation that otherwise wouldn't have been there.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the 4th time I've gone to a public protest. Oh man, what would it take for me to feel like you did, where I'd be willing to be arrested over it? And Josh, my wife says this about me. She says, you like getting lit on fire sometimes. I might relish the opportunity to get arrested into something like that. Not because I was breaking windows or stealing things, but just because somebody in the government decided to overzealously oppose what we were trying to do and was arresting peaceful protesters. I would love to have. I think that would be an even greater sacrifice to make that would make more of a difference.
You know what? That might come with your kids being older and being a little more independent. Because if I get arrested, I'm not concerned about being arrested. Let's be completely frank. I am a middle-aged white guy in the U.S. Nothing bad is going to happen to me. Like I can fairly reliably trust the system to treat me fairly, even though that might not be true for all people. But
okay, I want to take a tangent though.
Okay,
tell me the scenario you imagined getting arrested in. What did that look like? What had you done, and why were you being arrested?
Oh, I was just assuming Arizona's a hardcore red state, and in this scenario where I'm arrested is just because they're rounding up everybody and arresting everybody.
Huh. That didn't happen though, and there were protesters in Arizona.
You're right; it did not happen, and only the counter protesters got arrested and all things. Yeah, I get it. You have older kids; your kids can take care of themselves.
No.
When I think about getting arrested, all I think about is like the responsibilities that I am not upholding. My job to take care of my family, even if it's interrupted only for the 24 hours that I would be in jail.
And thank goodness our freedoms aren't threatened yet to the point where that's the only viable option.
Yeah, because it's not impossible, which is ridiculous to say, but highly unlikely that I would be shipped to a foreign country or to another state by some federal Gestapo secret police force.
Right, but also that things had gotten so bad or were getting so bad to the point where risking getting arrested is better than the alternative.
Yes, that's yeah. At least I hope in my mind we're not quite there yet. Yeah. We might have passed that a long time ago. I don't know. I've never lived through the downfall of a democracy, Ben.
Anyway, if another mass protest comes up, I've already got my sign made. So
you can't reuse signs.
Well, okay. What would your sign have said?
Would my sign have said at the No Kings protest?
Yeah.
I wouldn't bring a sign because I wouldn't want to carry it the whole time.
I guess there are people there without signs. Would you wear... Okay, here's an interesting thing. As we were walking up to the protest and we could see streams of people heading towards where we were going, there were some carrying American flags, and we couldn't tell immediately if that meant they were going to be in support of what we were doing or if they were going to be counter-protesters.
That's terrifying.
It is.
We're living in a time where the American flag, we don't know what that stands for anymore.
Yeah, but maybe it also means things are more okay than I thought.
What? No, you weren't unable to identify what the American flag meant in that context. Ben, that's terrifying.
Yeah, but if both sides are being peaceful and saying their ideas, I'm in favor of that.
Okay, yeah, can't argue with that one.
Anyway, it turned out that was just the thing. But would you wear what would you wear if you were going to the protest since you're not going to be carrying a sign?
I have a low-key pride shirt that I would have worn.
Okay. Fair. All right. That's all I have to say about that.
That's all I have to say about that. All right, Ben, I want to talk about something now.
Okay.
It's my turn. Ben, listeners, this is what you get. Like I said, we're going to have a dynamic podcast because I can see Ben and I can shut him down in real time. So, Ben, I'm going to talk about the fraud triangle for a second.
The fraud triangle?
The fraud triangle.
I don't know the fraud triangle.
Okay. I'm a CPA. That's a certified public accountant for I don't know, people that aren't hardcore nerds that don't
You're a
listen to us.
professional.
I am a professional math tax guy. Like, I deal with the government and money. Like, I'm the most boring person you've ever met. As part of that certification, I have to take an ethics class every 2 years. It's a minimum of 4 hours, 2 hours on just being a not terrible human being, and the other 2 hours specifically on Arizona state law surrounding financial reporting.
General ethics, like acknowledging that you're obligated to report human trafficking?
I mean, is that legal or is it unethical if I don't report?
What about money laundering? Like, what?
Who am I laundering it for? Ben, you're asking me some weird questions when it comes to ethics here.
But ethics is such a broad space.
But this is why we have such a hard time when we talk about the freaking D&D alignment chart, because you keep talking about laws. I am talking about morality. Those are different.
Okay, but this is ethics in the space of the context of being a professional accountant.
This is professional ethics. That is correct.
Okay.
This is stuff like due care. I have a responsibility to not half-ass a job that I take on for a client. Like, that's part of my ethical obligation, is to do a good job.
To whole-ass it.
To whole-ass it, that's right.
Do you remember our ethics briefings we'd have to do in the military?
Not
They're like how to kill people ethically.
Yeah, you're not supposed to use the 50 cal if you have the M16.
Right. Or you're not supposed to drop a bomb on the building if it's more than 50% innocent people. We're making these up.
The first one we did not make
the
up.
The principles of ethics are things like proportionality, genuine military targets, need, expediency, those kinds of things.
Ethics in the civilian world got a lot wimpier.
Okay.
Yeah. So, anyway, the fraud triangle.
The fraud triangle.
This is one of the things that we learn in our ethics course, okay? And it's really interesting because it can be applied in a larger scope. The idea is that fraud happens when there's 3 things available to the person that's committing the fraud. Okay? You with me? 3 things? Okay. So the first one is opportunity. In order for like a crime or something bad to happen, the person has to have the opportunity to actually do the thing.
Right. Okay. Right. Opportunity.
The second one is the rationalization. They have to be able to, in their mind, say, oh, this isn't really a bad thing, or I have my own reasons, or whatever. Okay?
Opportunity, rationalization.
And, crap, I forgot the third
motivation.
one. Motivation, there it is. They have to have a reason to do it.
Do you use an acronym for this? O-R-M?
No, I don't. This is why I forgot it, because I didn't have a handy mnemonic device. I have to write it down in the notes. So not only do they have to have the opportunity like to actually do something wrong, they have to have the motivation to do it. They have to have a reason to do it, and they have to be able to rationalize it like it's not being so bad. All right, and I'm bringing this up because this was the first time that in my recent history that I experienced an opportunity. I realized, oh, I'm in the middle of the fraud triangle right now. I could totally commit some fraud. I have all 3 of these things.
Oh, so you remembered your ethics training.
And I remember my ethics.
Oh, no, I'm in a position where I have opportunity, motivation, and rationalization.
I recognize my ethics training not in the fact like, oh, I shouldn't do this because it's unethical. I recognize like, oh, hey, this is what they're talking about in ethics training. I could totally commit an ethics fraud right now.
Okay. I asked you this question before, but why don't you give an example of a place where all 3 exist?
A place where,
I told you one I thought of, and I think you agreed that it was one. It's like when you're going through the drive-thru, and there's the sign underneath the window that only the customer can see that says, if you're not presented with a receipt after your purchase, please notify the management by calling this number.
You skip some steps. So the idea here is the reason that I learned about the fraud triangle as an accountant is we help clients in their processes, in their businesses,
avoid having all 3 at the same place at the same time.
Yes, you need to build your business so that a person can never find themselves in the fraud triangle. Like even if they have the opportunity and the motivation, or the opportunity and the rationalization, they shouldn't have the motivation. Or usually the easiest one to eliminate is the opportunity. Just make sure they don't have any opportunity to commit these frauds, and you do that through internal controls.
But in some ways, you never can. Like there always has to be somebody that approves the purchases, or has the business credit card. Or
there is somebody that has to approve the purchases, but those purchases can be reviewed by another person. The person that has the company credit card has to submit receipts for all of their expenses and account for all of them. Like, there are things that you can do to make sure that even if fraud happens, it will be caught. Okay, so anyway, I told all this story just to preface for another story.
Okay.
So at work, we've been having some building maintenance issues. Okay, last week the internet went down in the afternoon. It was right about the time that I left for work, so I didn't care. But the boss was pretty mad that he lost about half an hour, 45 minutes of productivity for the rest of his workforce for that day.
Right.
And he called building management and was like, "Why is my internet down?" It was pretty bad about
You and I have spent a good portion of our careers dealing with
those calls,
network outages.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the impact to operations.
So the problem is then like it came back up that night, no harm, no foul. We worked the rest of the week, no issues. We came back in Monday and we had no internet in the morning at all. And that internet outage lasted until noon. So my boss had 14 full-time employees that could not do their jobs for like basically half the day. And he was not happy with building management about it. He made his unhappiness very well known.
Like shouting?
I don't know what he did. That was
Okay.
behind closed doors. He deals with the money. I didn't want to get involved. Now, Wednesday morning, I come into work. I'm the first one that shows up to work on Wednesday, and I scan my badge on the little badge dinger thing that's going to let me into the building, and the door is locked. Okay, like it's a mag lock door, so you scan the badge, but it also unlocks the physical lock in the door when you scan. So I should be able to turn the knob and pull the door open.
Right.
I scan the badge and I pull the door. The knob will not turn, so I can't move that latch, but it's clear that the magnet latch has let go, because after I tried pulling for a couple of seconds, it re-engaged and like sucked the door away from me, like, a fraction of an inch. I could tell that the magnet re-engaged. And so now I'm the first one to work. It's like, and I get to be the one that texts him, "Hey boss, the door's broken. We can't physically get into the building."
Is that connected to the internet?
That's not connected to the internet. No, it's just an internal building thing.
It was a secondary problem.
It's a completely different. So the suite next to us is being built out for a new tenant right now.
Oh.
And so there's a ton of construction going on, and we're blaming all of it on them.
I can see why he was mad.
Yeah, and so this construction that's going on next door in this building is causing me, the guy that's currently paying for all these services, massive problems. And so, yeah, I was given the number via text message for the building manager, because I'm the one on site. I should be the one talking to him. I had no problem with that. So I call said building manager, and I'm like, "Hey, we can't get into the building." Like, "Oh, what suite are you in?" 225. "Oh, the tax guys." "Yeah, the tax guys." And like, so he knew. He must have caught an earful from my boss before, because he was not looking forward to this. He's like, "Okay, I'm not going to be there until 11 o'clock today. I'm on the other side of the valley." I'm like, "Okay, we need to be able to get into our office." And like, this guy long pauses over the phone. "Okay, I'm going to walk you through some instructions."
Wait. Was the key to the building underneath the welcome mat?
Almost. So he sent me on a little adventure in the building up to the third floor to the maintenance office. And on the outside of the maintenance office is one of those little old school analog keypads where you punch in some numbers and flick a switch and you open it. And in this little box outside of the building manager's office was a master key to every suite in the building.
I see. So this is the proverbial, like, the perfect set of circumstances arose that he told you his secret. He shouldn't, by rights, have told you, but in the interest of expediency, he did it.
Yes, because he didn't want to burn the bridge. Like, yeah, because of the past things that have been happening, he was encouraged or motivated or whatever, and he made the decision to give me the master key to the building.
Right.
And holding that key in my hand, I'm like, "Oh, yep, I got it. I'll get us in. Thanks." And I hung up on him, and I held it up, and I looked at it. I'm in the middle of the hallway all by myself, first one in the building. I know the only person that knows I have this key is not going to be there until the middle of the day. And I thought to myself, I could totally make a copy of this key right now, and we'd never have this problem again.
So how many legs of the fraud triangle is that?
I had the opportunity, because I was holding the key in my hand. I had the rationalization, because I mean, we're paying for this. I just want to get back into my office. And I had the motivation, because this stupid thing broke and it's preventing me from doing my job.
Does that mean there's something else besides those three?
I don't know, maybe.
Is ethics the other side of that?
Well, the ethics is supposed to prevent you
because
from
if you
doing
have the
thing.
opportunity, the rationalization, and the motivation, but you don't do it, what made you not do it? If it's not one of those three, if it's not the absence of one of those three things,
what made me not do it in that situation?
Yeah.
is because I would have had to drive to like a Home Depot. Like it would have been a pain.
So then
to,
it
like,
wasn't
get
an
this thing.
opportunity.
And it's got stamped with like "do not copy" on it. Like, I
Sure.
would have had to find one of the, like the automated ones, but they're building keys. They're weird. They're not the normal locks. Like there's only certain people that are going to be able to copy this key. Like it would have been a pain. So that was a little bit of a barrier. And the second is I don't really care. But if I was a hardened criminal, then what if I had no ethics? Like there are other financial institutions. There's a Charles Schwab in our building. What if I wanted to go with the master key in the middle of the weekend?
There's different reasons than being a hardened criminal that people make a copy of the master key.
Well, but there's like if I made a copy of the master key, it would be just in case we got locked out of the office again.
Right.
But theoretically, there's nothing stopping me from going into Charles Schwab on a Saturday and just like stealing everything. And I'm not talking the customer data on one hand, but like just their office furniture on the other one. Like this is a great chair. I want this chair for my office.
But the point of your training is for you guys as a business and to teach your customers to just avoid creating situations where all three of those things are present at the same time.
Let's make this clear. The ethics training does not make me more ethical. I see it as a checkbox that I have to get through in order to maintain my certification. I am either an ethical person or I am not. Learning about ethics does not make me more or less ethical.
That brings up a whole other debate that we haven't had recently that I remember that I like, but I don't know if I want to get into, which is like there tends to be there definitely was in the military, and apparently there is in your profession as well, this idea that mistakes or crimes are the result of lack of knowledge, and all lack of knowledge can be rectified with training. So the best way to address mistakes or malfeasance is with more training.
Well, and that's part of that is true, and that's because what we do.
But you just said that doesn't make you an ethical. Having that training doesn't make you an ethical person. That's the point I'm making.
Oh, I see.
That's something else. You don't get trained for that.
Well, but the government is also an unethical organization. Not unethical in the fact that they don't have ethics, but unethical in that it's just a monolith. Like, it doesn't have feelings. It doesn't feel bad or good about anything that it does. It just does. And so what you're talking about there is like, lack of knowledge can be fixed with training. It's the same idea that when you're dealing with the government, a lack of knowledge or understanding of the laws is not an excuse for not following them.
Right.
So, like, if I make a mistake as a tax person, not knowing that, or like ignorance of the mistake that I made is not an excuse. I will still get schwacked by the government.
My assertion I would make is that it isn't lapses aren't. It isn't a lack of knowledge.
Lapse in ethics.
Yeah, lapses ethics aren't a lack of knowledge.
Well, and that's the difference between like the civil fraud penalties that they talk about and criminal fraud penalties. Is the intent behind it. Like, did you make an honest mistake, or have you been defrauding the government for millions of dollars over the course of many years? There was this great example, and I love this one. This is the best thing that comes out of these ethics classes. They talk about the people that violated the ethics and how they did it. It's great. There was this tax preparer in, I want to say, Florida, and what he was doing for years, Ben, it was so cool. I probably talked about this before. He was filing tax returns, like for his clients that had small businesses, and he was filing their federal return, he's filing their Florida return, but he was also filing their Alabama return and their Louisiana return and their Tennessee return. States that they did no operations in, but he was using all their information and making up numbers to get refunds to then deposit into his personal account.
Like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption.
Kind of like that, yeah. And he's doing that for years, and because the states don't talk to each other, no state realized that these were not legitimate tax returns.
Okay, so let's do the whole fraud triangle here. So he found a loophole that he was exploiting.
Yeah,
which
the
is
opportunity.
Yeah. He wanted the money. Well, how is he rationalizing this? It's the government that I deserve this.
And the rationalization is why he got criminally indicted and went to jail. Is because whatever his rationalization was, like whatever mental gymnastics he has to do to make it think that he's doing the right thing, even though he clearly isn't. Oh, Ben, look, you have done the wrong thing, and at the moment, in the time that you did it, you thought you were doing the right one. Everyone has. Everyone has rationalized something wrong that they have done.
Okay, I had one this week.
This week?
Yeah, because I was going to come down here. My old car was starting to overheat, and I was worried about coming down here where it's like a full 20 degrees hotter than where I was coming from. Okay. And my car might overheat and strand me on the road somewhere on the way.
Oh, between Salt Lake City, Utah, and Las Vegas?
Yeah.
That is like no man's land, like certain death the whole way.
Right. So I'd taken my car in on Monday to the mechanic, and they'd given me a loaner. And they were like, it's in pristine condition, sign here. And they gave me a brand new version of my car, 20 years newer. And so I drove it home, parked it in the driveway, and I got up the next morning and went out and got in it, and there was a big rock chip in the windshield. And I'd done a walk around when I got it, and I looked at the sheet, and that wasn't on it. Oh. And so I was like, what do I say to him when I take this car back so I don't got to buy a new windshield? Because I don't, when you get a rock chip, it startles you. Like it doesn't happen secretly. It's that really loud whack sound on the freeway, and you're like, oh crap, I got a rock chip. And I didn't remember there being one. But if they told me there wasn't one, and now there's one,
and it wasn't on your walk around sheet, then it's your fault.
Right. So I was like, do I just give them the keys back and hope they don't notice and maybe blame it on the next guy? Or do I just go in and tell them about it?
And you went in and told them about it because you're such an ethical person.
Saying it like that oversimplifies how tangible the temptation to avoid it was.
No, I get it. Like you had to sit there and think through because you had the rationalization.
I didn't chip this windshield.
Right. Well, not that you know.
Right.
Might have got chipped while you were sleeping.
Maybe.
Your kid's throwing stuff out there. Listen, what you didn't realize is that one of your kids snuck out and took it on a joyride for 185 miles before they brought it back with an empty tank of gas.
So I didn't tell you the end of it. What do you think happened?
You took it in. You told them that it was a chipped windshield. They told you, don't worry, we have comprehensive glass. We don't care.
Kinda. I took it in. I told her it was a chipped windshield, and they're like, yeah, we knew about that already. Sorry, we didn't put it on the form.
Oh, nice. Solid. So you were stressing and agonizing and going through this ethical dilemma.
Now you're overemphasizing it. But there was a minute there where I was like, I didn't do this. I know I didn't do this. I could just tell them, and then it's not my problem, as opposed to me taking accountability for it. And worst case scenario being more likely that they say, well, it wasn't on the form, and you signed here, and you're legally obligated. Now you owe us for a new windshield.
I would love for some entry-level teenager to try to talk to me in that tone of voice. I'm talking about a chipped windshield.
I was oversimplifying to just pass the message, but yes.
Oh, so you do understand the comedic value of undersimplifying. Oh, okay, cool.
Okay, so anyway, that's the fraud triangle.
That's the fraud triangle. I'm done talking about that.
All right, I have a couple of stories that was delayed. I need to tell you. We'll call this Bad at Society. So I'm going back in time 13 years here.
You forgot to tell us about this for 13 years?
No, well, it has a second chapter that just happened. Okay. So 13 years ago, I had been selected for a consecutive overseas tour. My family was moving from Italy to England. And when the military has an American family serve a consecutive overseas tour, they approve funding for a government-procured visit back home.
Oh, okay.
So basically, they buy our family plane tickets to go back to our home of record for. Then you just take your regular leave, but the government bought you the plane tickets. So we took a flight from England to Utah to come back here and see all the family. I actually came and saw you during that trip. So we were back for like a month, and we went all over the place. You and I went and floated in a lake for a while with your sister and her yet unmarried boyfriend, and
I have no memory of this transpiring.
We took your dad's boat and went out on a lake near your house.
I mean, if you say so.
Kneeboarded and floated in the sun. It was great. I don't consider a vacation until I've floated in an unchlorinated body of water. That's my criteria for having taken a vacation.
Oh, man. Having been as deep as I have been into social media, I'm never getting into a freshwater pond ever again.
Yeah. I showed you some pictures of me floating in unchlorinated waters of Hawaii this week, and you're like, you can get brain amoebas, right?
There's an amoeba. If it gets in your nose and get your sinus and get in your brain, it'll kill you.
So one lazy day in the summer of 2014, I was sitting at my mom's house, and my sister comes in. She's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go do something. You want to come with me?" I'm me. I'm like, "Sure, I'm in. What is it?"
Dang right I do. Where are we going? I already got my shoes on.
Rick and Morty. So I rolled out of bed that morning. I hadn't shaved. She's like, "Hey, I got a friend. She was my wedding photographer. We were her first ever wedding. She's doing this project that's really interesting. I think you'll like it. Come with me and we'll be part of it." So I jump in her car and we drive a half hour to her house. And she's doing this project she's calling 10,000 Headshots, which is she decided there were too many people out there with crappy photos on like social media. and she was going to do her part.
Oh. You changed your freaking profile pic and all your social medias, and like this started to all line up now.
Okay, so, but do you remember the photo I had before?
No.
Okay, well, it was from 13 years ago, and it was taken by my sister's wedding photographer. Anyway, she started a website called 10,000 Headshots. It's like 10,000headshots.com. Don't worry, it's a safe internet search. And so we went to her house, and she was really professional and nice, and she took my photo, and I really liked it, and so I've been using it as my profile pic for the last 13 years. And when she set up the website, she put me on the fact page, my photo that she'd taken, because it was one of the first. And she started counting on this website. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I was watching it over the years, and every year it'd be up by another 1,000 or so. So a few months ago, I was curious how she was doing on this, and also looking at my profile pic and thinking it's kind of old. And since we moved back to Utah, and I looked up her website, and it said 9,987 or something like that. She was like,
"Oh, I gotta get in the car right now. I want to be number 10,000."
And that took her 13 years to get to 9,900 and so. And I thought, wow, what a cool idea to set this goal so far in the future, not knowing how long it would take, and just having the determination to see it all the way through the end.
I mean, I feel like you could have set up a backdrop on the outside of a baseball game and gotten like 1,000 people in an hour.
Yeah, but she also had a standard of quality. Like if you look at the one, it's not just I took 10,000 pictures of people's face.
Got it. Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
She takes 15. You pick your favorite, and she sends it to a retoucher, and she provides you a retouched photo.
So this is a real service she's providing. This is hours into each one.
Yes.
Okay.
And her price had quintupled since I'd done it the first time.
Oh, in 13 years?
Yeah.
She's still undercharging. It needs to go up by, like, you know how much inflation we've had in the last few years, Ben?
All right, I want you to guess how much it is for a 30-minute session.
For a 30-minute session with a professional photographer to get a headshot?
Yeah.
That is going to be at least $300.
Okay, it's pretty good. $225, but yes.
She should be charging at least $300.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm a professional accountant. She needs to be charging at least $300.
Well, you'll see her on the cover of, like, wedding magazines, because she's now a renowned wedding photographer, and her work is amazing.
So she's a famous photographer.
Pepper Nicks sponsored the podcast.
Then she needs to be charging at least $700.
So I was so excited about her project when she first started doing it. I called her up. I contacted her through her website, sent her a text, say, "Hey, Pepper, it's Ben. I'm on your fact page. Like, I need a new headshot. Does doing duplicates of the same person count towards your total?" She's like, "Sure it does. Come on down." And I'm like, "Can I bring my wife and my daughter?" She's like, "Great. This next week at this time." And I get there, and I'm like, "So your website says you're at like 9,900. She's like, "Yeah. You want to be my 10,000th?" I was like, "Okay."
That's why I brought 12 other people.
So unofficially, I was like her fourth and number 10,000.
Oh, well, you weren't the first.
Yeah.
You were like fourth.
I don't know where I was. Somewhere in the first 100 and number 10,000.
Well, you should have been somewhere in the first 100 and then that number plus 10,000.
And it feels better now to have a profile pic where I have a head of hair and a beard and some glasses instead of the young me of 13 years ago between my tours from Italy and England.
Listeners, we're going to have to pause the podcast for a minute. I'm going to go physically assault Ben for calling me out on my lack of hair and how not
Why
dark
do you always
my hair
take it
is.
so personal when I talk about my hair?
It's only you. You are the only person I take it personally from. And I think it's because you made it a point not to have any hair for so long.
So, went and got my photos taken. She updated the website to 10,000. Link in the show notes so you can see my new photos. And if you like it, you too can go get headshots from Pepper Nicks if you can get to Salt Lake City.
They will be $700 an hour.
All right. Now, that same week, that week was like, it felt like November 5th, 1955. There was just so much crap happening in that week.
Listeners, that's a Back to the Future reference.
And I had 2 music concerts I went to that were both bands I've been listening to since I've been a child.
Oh yeah, you randomly showed up at concert. Like there was a time like you were sending me pictures. I thought you were like a roadie for a ska band or something.
Yeah. So the first band was the Aquabats, which kind of achieved some minor popularity back in the mid '90s, but were very popular in certain segments. They're like a ska band out of Southern California. All
right, hang on a second. I know I'm interrupting your story, but can you explain to me what is ska? Like, what is that?
You know what I found out about ska? It came from Jamaica and it predates reggae.
That does not answer my question in any form.
It's the sound that plays inside a 14-year-old's head when he gets extra cheese sticks?
I have never experienced a series of answers that have made me more confused than when I started. Would you answer my question? What is ska?
It is a genre of music that is characterized by rhythm guitars playing upbeats and horns.
Okay. I'm latching on to horns. What kind of horns are we talking about?
Mostly
French horns,
mostly trumpets, but
okay.
maybe some other stuff too.
Upbeat stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So what separates this from something like Ricky Martin? Is Ricky Martin a ska band?
No, he's like Latin something or another.
He's got horns and upbeat rhythm guitars.
Yeah, not backbeat guitars. It's like the upbeat instead of the downbeat. Link in the show notes to some ska music. So the Aquabats had this interesting career where they kind of had this little bit of a wave in popularity in the mid-90s and achieved what maybe people would think of as the peak of their career, but they weren't done. So they're my age and they're getting into middle age, but they're not like rockers that tour and play their first 3 albums from 30 years ago.
Oh, Ben, do you think you're middle-aged?
What are you talking about? I'm the very definition of middle age. I'm 47. So
I'm gonna look this up real quick.
What is middle aged?
No, the lifespan of the average U.S. male.
Oh, so the Aquabats did this interesting thing where in the middle of their careers they kind of morphed into something else. They ended up producing music for the children's show Yo Gabba Gabba, like the theme song and the little interludes and yeah. So during the concert, they had the robot from Yo Gabba Gabba as a guest on stage and played one of the songs from Yo Gabba Gabba. But anyway, they also played all the classics, and it was a great time. It was an open air concert in the park, and all the families were there, and it was very wholesome, very fun. Enjoyed the Aquabats. Then a week later, I went to They Might Be Giants from Brooklyn, who were touring here in Utah and did a couple of nights, and they did it in like a bar in a standing venue. And that was awesome. The 3rd time I'd seen them in concerts. And I want to talk about something called the They Might Be Giants effect. Have you heard of the They Might Be Giants effect?
They Might Be Giants effect? No, I haven't.
Do you know who the band is?
I know that They Might Be Giants. They were on the Tiny Toons one episode. They did a couple of their songs on
Yes. So they also had a phase of children's music. But the They Might Be Giants effect is, and I think I can find like a, I don't know, Urban Dictionary link to this or something like that, where basically the fact that there was a band that was popular with kids who then grew up and became successful grown-ups that needed to hire someone to make the music for their project and hired their favorite band. So They Might Be Giants have done children's albums. They made the theme song to Malcolm in Middle. They did they've done all kinds of TV shows and stuff, and now they're just touring and they're great. Like that concert was amazing. I loved it. I've gone to them 3 times and I'd go again. That was great.
That sounds cool. Just for the record, the average U.S. lifespan for a U.S. male is 77 years old, Ben. So we are both past middle-aged.
But isn't there like a decade in the middle that's just the zone?
The zone
of middle-aged?
Is that like how a woman turns 29 8 times?
I guess so. I'm middle-aged. It's the Dr. Lori used to call it the 30th annual celebration of my 29th birthday. Okay, but there's something that happened in both of those concerts I want to talk about, Josh, and I want to call it the encore game.
Okay. The encore. So because presumably there was encores that needed to be played.
Yes. So I've had the experience recently, and maybe you have with your kids as well, where you have to explain to them, like, okay, the band is going to act like the concert is over, but it is definitely not over. Have you had to explain this to a child yet?
It's adorable that you think I would leave my house to go see live music.
You sent me photos from concerts this month.
That was this month. Okay, that's a completely different thing. That was put on by our HOA by like a band that they knew. Like
does that band not play the encore game?
There is no encore. No, there's no backstage, Ben. It's
You've
like
never been to a concert where the musicians are playing the encore game.
I have been on I have been to concerts where they play the encore game. But you haven't taken your kids to one. I have not taken my kids to any kind of paid.
I've had the opportunity several times to explain to a child the encore game, and it's weird the first time you explain it to a child. You're like, okay, it's gonna look like the concert is over. and every experience you've had leading up until this point in your life is going to make you think that they're going to stop playing and walk off the stage and the concert is over. But trust me, it's definitely not over.
Ben, I 100% guarantee this is not weirder than telling a young child that there is a mythical creature that wants their teeth.
Stay with me, Josh. I want to talk about the encore game.
Okay.
This is a game we play. I guess it's almost like the Tooth Fairy kind of thing. We're like,
we all know there's a lie, but it's going to happen anyway.
There's a lie. The lie is that the concert is over. But everybody knows the concert is not over. Well, here's what happened.
Who's surprised by the encore? Is there one person in the audience like,
yes.
Oh my goodness, they're coming back out?
I tell you, the first time I've taken a kid to a concert with me and I explain the encore game to them, they're like, nah. And then we sit there and clap after the band leaves the stage.
Why would you tell them that it was going to happen
Because they're like, why are we still sitting here clapping when they turned off the lights and left the stage?
You tell your kids that there's no Santa Claus either. You are the worst person for these kind of surprises.
Okay, so if you were taking your kid to a concert, you would let the encore game surprise them? What if they turn you and be like, Dad, the concert's over. Why are we not leaving yet?
I would say that's an excellent point. That's to get up and leave because I would forget about the encore game. Like you go to outdoor concerts multiple times in a week. I haven't been to one in decades.
You don't have like a favorite band you'd go see in concert?
I would be willing to entertain the thought of seeing Imagine Dragons in concert.
Okay, so let's say you gone to Imagine Dragons concert with your kids and you were hoping they would play, what was their first song that was a hit? I can't think of the name of it.
I'm not going to look it up.
Anyway, the first song that was a hit.
Name a song. Listeners, fill in the blank with your favorite Imagine Dragons song.
It. They turn off the lights. They stop playing the music. They walk off the stage and you're like, okay, let's go.
I mean, maybe. But then everybody would stay and then I remember, there's an after credits scene. It's fine.
But that would be spilling the beans to your kids. No, don't leave yet. There's a post-credit scene. That would be a good way to transmit that to your children. They would instantly get it. Like, who are the idiots that still leave before the credits are over at a Marvel movie? You look at them like, where are they going?
Okay, so the last Marvel movie we saw
the same thing.
We saw Thunderbolts, and we sat for the post-credit scene, and then it played, and then we had to Google if there was a second post-credit scene.
Like, what? After they turn the house lights on, you're expecting another one?
Well, there's 2 post-credit scenes in Thunderbolts.
Yeah, but one's kind of in the middle. There's always one at the end. You know that.
Yeah, but the house lights don't come up until.
Did you want to leave?
Well, no, we were just making sure. I wanted to leave. The movie.
We make sure by not leaving. That's how we make sure.
We make sure, but that's how they trick you into reading all the credits.
Yeah, but you can be a rebel and not read the credits, Josh.
Who doesn't want to know who the best grip is on every movie?
Or where it was actually filmed. This movie was filmed in Toronto? I thought that was supposed to be New York.
Toronto gives... Most movies that were set in New York are filmed in Toronto because Toronto gives better tax breaks.
Yeah. Thanks, accountant. Okay, so the encore game is, at the end of the concert, they stop playing, they walk off the stage, and they wait for you to cheer. If you didn't stay there and cheer, I don't think they would come back out and, like, play some more music and be like, hey, where are y'all going? Like, there's a little bit of a contract there.
No. That's not how that works. They're going to play another song. It does not matter.
If the crowd left, they would come out and play another song. You are so wrong about that.
There's no way to verify this, but I would. I mean,
there's a little bit of a back and forth happening with the crowd.
It's their job.
No, you have to demand it.
Are they going to change the song if you don't cheer good enough?
Encore, by definition, is what the audience says, asking the band to do more.
No, all right, hang on a second.
Even though we're not shouting the word encore, there's an audience participation element of this.
You are proposing that there is some kind of a transaction happening where the band is expecting a certain amount of response from the audience in order to deserve the encore.
Saying that.
Okay,
this is not a post-credit scene. It's not a sure thing. It's not already recorded and happening no matter what.
So is this a decibel meter? If the audience only gets up to 30 decibels, then we're only going to send like the bassist back out to do a song?
I've been to a concert where I'm convinced there was an encore planned, but the audience didn't deserve it enough and they left.
Didn't deserve it. I hate the word choice you use there, deserve. Like this band is providing us this.
All right, I'm Googling the word encore.
Everybody paid to be there. It is their job to stand up on that stage and entertain me for a set amount of time.
How much is that amount of time?
You got me there.
Encore refers to an additional performance given by entertainers, usually in response to enthusiastic applause from the audience. This is a transaction. It is not a given.
But at the same time, you called it a game. Like, we all know they're going to come back out here and play another song.
Here's the thing, and why I called it a game and why I brought this up. Because everybody knows the game, it feels so rote. It's become rote. Like, the set lists are known before the concert, and you can see almost... It's not a surprise anymore. They're not surprising you. You go, oh, look, they came back out. It would be like, if they didn't come back out, you'd be mad.
They left off their number one greatest hit. Yeah. How are we going to do a concert without this song?
Right.
How dare they? This is a ripoff. I overpaid my Ticketmaster fees.
People expect the encore game, and then they expect if they pay their part, which is stay in your seat or stay in your spot and cheer for a minute, the band's going to come back out and play another song.
Okay, let's flip this on its head. If I stay here and I keep cheering and I keep deserving it, are they going to stay all night? Are they going to play a whole another 3 hours?
I love this, and I bet I can find a video. This didn't happen at either of these concerts I've at, and there was two things. I'll tell them in a minute. But there have been instances where the band has played their planned set list, including their planned encores, and the crowd does not go. And they'll stay and cheer for 10 or 15 additional minutes. And the band will be back in their dressing room being like, what's going on? And so they'll go back out and play another song that wasn't part of the planned set list.
Somebody comes in and is like, listen, you got to go play another song before they start like eating the chairs or something.
Right.
These people are going to tear this place apart.
Yeah. And then the encore game has been transcended, and you truly have this thing where...
so we've won. The audience has won the
That's right.
encore game.
We have made the band do something they didn't plan on doing from the start.
We forced the band to play until the drummer died.
You will play. You will stop playing when I say you can stop playing. But those kinds of moments, when they happen, feel spontaneous and like heartfelt. There's an element of genuineness to it, and I bet the band looks back. Remember that one night? Yeah, we had the best concert ever. They stuck around for 5 more encores or whatever. Everybody's having so much a good time, they just don't want to leave.
Okay, this is the part where I'm off board again, because who has fun at live music events?
I just told you I had a great time at both of these concerts. It was amazing.
You're not a person. You're some kind of weird Care Bear that like transcended reality.
Well, then there were 800 more of me there.
I don't know. I'm not that guy. I'm not a live music person. I want my music perfectly mixed by a professional.
My complaint, the reason I brought this up, is the encore game has become so transactional, it's predictable. Like, you know there's going to be 2 encores. In fact, they even have a way to signal you that the encore game is over. And the Might Be Giants did it. After the first one, it just got quiet, and they turned off the lights and left, but nothing else happened. After the second one, they turned on the house lights and started some, like, piped-in background music.
A clear indicator that we're done. We're done entertaining you. Go home.
We could have done the thing where if not a soul had moved and we stayed there and cheered for 15 minutes, they probably would have come out. But they did a great job with their last song, and out of respect, we were like, all right, that's
out of respect. Okay, yeah, you decided. Like it's some kind of
I'm
judge
telling
and jury.
you, it's a transaction.
Was that good enough? Thumbs up if they get to go home. Thumbs down if they have to come back out here to entertain us more.
Yeah, you're discounting the emotion of the moment. The fans were just had such a tremendous time at this live music event that they don't want it to end, and the band wants to be part of that too.
You know what? For every 10 of you out there, like, I don't want it to end, this goes on forever, there's one person like me that's like, oh, I'm cheering because I didn't get my money's worth. Get back out here and dance for me.
So we had someone like you there. It was my brother-in-law who'd come with my sister's wife. The band was late coming on stage. He's like, well, I guess this concert's not starting, and he left, and he never came back.
What? He just skipped the whole thing?
He skipped the whole thing. He went out to his car.
Nope, there's backstory there. You're missing something important.
He's on the spectrum.
That is not an excuse.
He was just like, well, they're not keeping their part of the deal. I'm not keeping mine. Poof.
What, did he get a refund? Because they don't care if he's there or not.
He just walked out.
If I form a band, I could play to an empty house. Everybody could have left. And if I had planned an encore, I'm going to play that encore.
I like that. All right, that's the encore game.
All right, Ben, what are you reading right now?
Oh man! So on the way down here, I almost finished a book I'd been reading. I have a coworker that has kind of been my mentor. I really admire him. And one time I just asked him, like, "So what are you reading right now?" He's like, "Oh, I just finished up a book called Pacific Crucible: War at Sea in the Pacific by Ian W. Toll. It's set in 1941 and 1942. And as I've started to get into history books, I've realized you can zoom in or out as much as you want. Like, I read a book called 1776. I was like, oh, this will be about the founding of the United States of America. Nope. It was about the year 1776. It started in January and it ended in December, and that was the whole book.
Wow. Does anything really important happen in 1776?
Yeah, but I didn't like it, so I won't recommend that one. But this book is about, it focuses on the Navy more than other things. So it's very centered. It starts with Pearl Harbor and goes till about the end of 1942. It's talking about what's happening with the Navy. And a few of the things I've really enjoyed about reading this book are that it zooms in on moments that are easy to forget about. Like, for instance, the week following the Pearl Harbor attack. Mm-hmm. What was it like in Hawaii? Like, where they were still cleaning up body parts and chaos and not knowing if the Japanese are going to come back again, and not knowing why all their intelligence failed, and not knowing if the country is going to come to their aid, and all of this uncertainty. And so they were going nuts. Like for instance, when it would come time for guards to switch shifts and their replacements were showing up, they were getting shot. Like, that's how jumpy people were.
Oh, geez. Wow.
And that kind of stuff just gets lost to history if you don't go back and focus on that exact moment. There were ships, there were airplanes getting shot down, friendly fire, just because people were so scared of Japanese planes coming back and not knowing what they were going to be like. They were all over the United States. They were having blackout drills, not knowing if the Japanese were going to invade the homeland. And
jeez,
yeah. I didn't know any of that. And it was all just kind of lost to history. And then on top of all that, then they really zoom in on the generals and admirals that stepped up at the time when the United States of America declared war against Japan and at the same time Germany, and then made the executive decision, even though we're entering the war because of what happened in Hawaii, we're going to focus on Europe first.
Man, and that's we tell you this all the time in this podcast. Logistics is the reason that we've won all the wars that we've won.
Yeah.
And at the time, not only was the Navy like the only source of logistics, first of all. Second, like, we lost basically like an entire Pacific fleet, minus the aircraft carriers, which is very important if you're a student of history.
Yeah.
And the Axis powers had a huge advantage because they had been preparing for this for way longer than we were. Like, by the time we entered the war, they already had the submarines prowling the Atlantic to take out these logistic supply chains.
Now, this history book I'm reading is different than ones I've read, and I'm impressed, so I'm recommending it, Ian W. Toll, because he apparently, you could tell he either speaks Japanese or read a lot of translations of original Japanese source material, because he's quoting Japanese generals, Japanese veterans, survivors, people who were on the scene at the time these things were happening. And it's really interesting to get all of their perspective on what was happening geopolitically and globally, and how the Japanese were technically allied with the Germans, but they did not feel like they were ideologically aligned with them. They'd very much put all their eggs in the basket of our emperor is a god and we have a divine right to assert our will on all the people in the region, and we're resource poor, so we're getting what should be ours. And then there was all the atrocities that were happening with Unit 3149 or whatever it is, where they were doing medical experiments and concentration camps and violating all the rules of law and all the things. And one of the things I had no idea is the Emperor Hirohito was not behind most of this. Basically, he was just surrounded by a Politburo of people who had political and geographic aspirations, and just hid him away and set him up as this deity and figure that it was better that no one ever saw or heard from. He became a much more mythical figure if no one ever heard his voice or saw his face, and he was just behind the scenes supposedly pulling the strings. But what that meant a lot of the time is that admirals and generals and mid-level people could do whatever they wanted with impunity, and then the other people just had to back it up. So there wasn't this monolithic, singular focus of control in the Japanese war machine like there was in Germany, where the Hitler was behind everything.
Okay. That is interesting. I don't think it's interesting enough to get me to read a nonfiction book about it, but Sorry, I'm just not my cup of tea.
What are you reading right now?
Ben, I was waiting for my my latest Audible credit to come back so I can finish the Dresden Files, at least for now.
The last one?
I'm not reading it right now. I hadn't gotten my credit before I started this book. I was going back through my back catalog and I was like, okay, I don't have any credits. I don't want to buy any more credits. I need to reread something that's in my catalog that I haven't read in a while. And I reached back and I'm reading Brandon Sanderson's first book that he wrote. It's called Elantris.
Huh.
He wrote it a long time ago, and you can tell that he wrote it a long time ago. He's learned a lot. It's very it's still him, but this is like a.
I don't know that it's the first book he wrote, but it's the first one that got published, right?
I think it's the first one that got published.
Okay.
Yeah. He's written other books that are now going to get published because he's so famous, but neither here nor there. This one it's very different from the other ones. It's still in the Cosmere, and it's the people and the magic system that's in this book is starting to creep over into the other more mainstream series that he's writing. Which is interesting because this is the only place that they are referenced is in this older book of his that's not super popular. You can tell it's not super popular because he has way too many proper nouns in this thing. And they're so similar. It's like, it's super important, these two spin-offs of this religion that are competing, and one's Shukirith, one is Shukarith, or something like that. I don't have the pronunciation right, and they're very close, and it's like, does it matter, like what they're called?
We covered this a long time ago when we talked about the TV trope called No Two Steves.
Yes, yeah,
it's
like that.
You can't have two people with the same name, even though that's likely in
Happens
real life.
A lot, yeah. We'll talk about this later. I met a guy named Ben down on the convention floor playing Magic the Gathering, and we've run into each other like 3 times now. Anyway, one of the things that's interesting about this book, there is these, I'm not going to go into the whole details, but there's these, they used to be magical figures, and then the magic system in the book broke, and instead of being magical, they're now kind of cursed. And one of the parts of their curse, they're basically like zombies, essentially. And they still have their full faculties and consciousness and everything. And every time they get hurt, any amount of pain that they experience, they continue to experience that pain now forever.
Okay, and so that would make you really risk adverse.
Our protagonist stubbed his toe the first day that he was cursed with this thing, and it just feels like his toe is stubbed forever now.
Holy cow.
And so it's just this accumulating aches and pains, like little scrapes, little cuts, little bumps, all these little things, until it's so overwhelming that it just destroys your brain
and
your
become
consciousness.
A zombie.
And then you just they call it they call him the Hoid. They just collapse and just start mumbling to themselves. Their brain just
I played
can't
against
work anymore.
A guy today that was wearing a shirt that said that word on it, Hoid.
Hoid. That might be Hoid.
Oh, what does that mean?
The Hoid is another character. I don't know if that's the right spelling or not. That's another Cosmere thing. Anywho, reading that, because the first time I read this book was probably 6-7 years ago. And I read that and I'm like, man, that sounds like it would be awful. Rereading it now, then I'm like, that's just being 40. You just hurt yourself and you're just now hurt forever. It's like, oh, well, I guess this elbow is just going to be this way now.
Yeah.
Weren't you were complaining the other day about your shoulder. You had surgery on the shoulder, years and years ago?
2023.
2023. Years and years, forever, a lifetime ago.
2 years ago.
And it still hurts.
Yeah.
It's just going to hurt forever.
Definitely.
So that's, everybody listening to my voice that's under the age of 30. That's what you have to look forward to. Okay, let's talk about magic, Ben. We are here in Vegas. Where it all started, where it all began.
6 years ago, we started the podcast.
Yeah, but because of the timing, for some reason, let's talk about this part first. There's 2 things that I really want to talk about.
Okay.
Let's talk about this one first. First of all, is the timing.
So, listeners, if you met Josh and I at this convention and we gave you a little souvenir, reminded you, and you came here to listen to the Bad at Magic podcast, wondering if this was a podcast about magic, the answer is no.
It's not usually, no.
Sometimes it is.
I have said that to every person that I've talked to. It's like, hey, we have a podcast. Here's the stuff. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? Commander, Limited? And I'm like, actually, we don't talk about magic hardly at all. I sell the podcast so poorly.
This is the Bad at Magic segment.
Listeners, if this is the first time you're listening and it's because you got a dice, I guarantee it's because you got it from Ben. I'm doing a terrible job selling our podcast. But let's talk about the time, because it is June, right? It feels like we were just here.
Yeah, we were September, so I guess 9 months ago.
It was October.
Oh,
it was the week before.
8 months ago.
Yeah, it was 8 months ago in October, And now, here we are in June. Like, Ben, why isn't it in October again? Don't conventions happen annually?
I'm sure there's lots of reasons. I know you've zeroed in on one, but there's lots of reasons.
I know there's
availability,
lots of reasons.
convention center, and space, and the Pro Tour, and lots of things. But go ahead. What's your reason?
I have a ranty conspiracy theory.
All right, go for it. What else are podcasts for if they aren't for ranty conspiracy theories?
Fair enough. Okay. So recently, the most recent set that was released from Magic the Gathering was the Final Fantasy set. They did some deal with Square Enix, who holds the IP for all the Final Fantasy games, and they decided to do a set for all of Final Fantasy. And I've played a handful of Final Fantasy games. I have consumed a bunch of other Final Fantasy media and story and lore and videos.
So how would you rank yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, from 10 being like maximum Final Fantasy fandom, 1 being like not even knowing what that means?
Okay, but here's the problem. Because there's a threshold. It's got to be like, if you want to say I'd say 7 or higher, you have to have played a majority of the games. I have not played a majority of the games.
Same.
But I bought the movie Advent Children, which is it's dubbed to English. It was made in Japan, and it's it's direct story of Final Fantasy VII. Why do I own that, Ben?
That's an example of the long tail, Josh.
Well, this is why I'm not a super huge Diamondbacks fan, but I have a ton of their merch.
Okay. Great example. Okay, me too. Like, I played the original Final Fantasy on NES. I played it all the way through maybe 8 times.
Okay.
So it's a grind.
A lot of these are, but they make the grind fun. I think it's Final Fantasy 15. People will tell you that really like it. It's like, oh yeah, it's kind of slow and really boring for the tutorial, but you get out of the tutorial after about 30 hours, and then the game gets awesome. Literally, I've had people tell me that to my face. Oh yeah, after 30
Those
hours,
first 200 bites of dirt were not so good.
Anyway, talking to like actual Final Fantasy fanatics, they knocked it out of the park. Like, all the art, the flavor, the card names, and I didn't tell you the story yet, but I'm mixing up the plot line here. Okay, because they did such a good job, there are so many people that love Final Fantasy and so many people that love Magic. This has now surpassed Lord of the Rings as being the most sold, highest grossing set of Magic that has ever been.
How is that possible? It hasn't even been out for a month yet.
And it is the highest grossing Magic the Gathering set that has ever happened. So it's a combination of, 1, it's a good set and all the Magic people are going to buy everything they sell anyway. 2, it's a standard set. Lord of the Rings went straight to modern.
Okay. That might have been a mistake, but yeah.
Final Fantasy is going into standard, so there's more formats, more people care about it.
And Lord of the Rings had the frantic search for the golden ticket.
This also has the frantic search for the golden ticket.
No, it is not a $2.6 million one-of-one card, Josh.
No, it's 66 golden chocobos that are serialized that are going for, I think, $10,000 a piece right now.
Okay, but even when you add all that up, it doesn't even come close to the One Ring.
It doesn't. You're right. It doesn't come close to the One Ring. But But still, yeah. There's no $2.6 million pack, but there are $10,000 packs.
Okay.
I watched a guy today open a $900 card.
Huh.
So I mean, it's not impossible.
Okay.
That's another part. And then on top of all that, there's also all the Final Fantasy nerds. Ben, okay. In these packs, I know listeners, not all of you listen to Magic, but like there are cards, and we play with these cards. It's a card game. But every once in a while, you'll get a random garbage card that's inserted in the pack that has nothing to do with the game, and it's usually like a token that you can use.
Right,
or
in the past, you could safely throw them away.
Maybe it's an advertisement, but sometimes they include what's called an art card. And on one side, it's just the art of one of the cards in the game. On the back, it says like who the artist is.
But it's not a functional card.
It's not a functional card. It's not for anything. I throw them away every time I see them. I don't care for the art cards. Some people like to collect them. I don't. They're garbage. Ben, because there are so many people who love Final Fantasy, the art cards are selling for like $5 or $6 a piece.
So there's never been any kind of like Final Fantasy trading. This is filling an unmet demand.
I guess, or maybe they just commissioned all the right artists, or maybe they just struck the right chord. Like it doesn't matter. Like this is transcending Magic the Gathering fans, and it's pulling in people that have never heard of Magic the Gathering, that are just diehard Final Fantasy fanatics, and they are buying the product.
So what's the problem, Josh? This is good for the game. It's good for the fans. What's your deal?
The problem, Ben, is apparently Daddy Hasbro made a bad deal with Square Enix for this IP because the MSRP for all of these products is 50% higher than what it should be.
So because of how much they had to pay Square Enix for the license to put all the Final Fantasy intellectual property on the cards, they had to charge twice 50% more?
Yeah. Everything. That's another reason this is the highest grossing set, is not only do they sell more of the product, but every piece of product they sell is more expensive than it has ever been.
I feel like that shouldn't count, but okay.
That totally counts, right?
But if...
Volume or sales. They're always going off of sales.
Exactly.
They're always going off of sales.
Okay.
All right, so part of that, so that's now I want to tell a personal story that this phenomenon pissed me off about, is because we were going to go to the pre-release, and I look forward to that pre-release just the way I look forward to every pre-release. I'm like, we're going to the pre-release. New cards. I sent my son the spoilers. I'm like, you got to read these. Here's the mechanics. Here's the limited format you got to be looking for. And my wife, 2 days before, in her infinite wisdom, even asked me, "Hey, did you reserve a seat or something?" And me and my infinite hubris was like, no, this new game store we go to is enormous. They never run out of space. We get there like an hour early every time. And
I love the way you say these things that past Josh said, obviously knowing that it's foreshadowing the pending disaster.
Pending disaster. Ben, we rolled in there an hour before our event was going to start. This store is so big, it runs 2 pre-releases on Friday night and 2 pre-releases on Saturday night. Uh-huh. We showed up for the second one an hour early. I was like, hey, we're here for the pre-release. Like, we're sold out. We might have some availability for the second one tomorrow if nobody shows, or if some people are no-shows.
That store doesn't do like a midnight pre-release?
That store does not do a midnight
pre-release. I stopped doing midnight pre-releases, and I'm a better person for it.
But like I was, Ben, when I say I was livid, that's not the right word. Like, I drove half an hour with my son and my son's best friend.
You've described this experience before, where you showed up to an event and they didn't have it, and you're like, you try to calm down, you buy some other product and go play a game at home.
Yeah, so we didn't do that this time, and because there's a lot of space in the store, we didn't want to leave, and so I had a different idea at the time. Because there's 2 different counters. There's one counter where they're selling product, and the other counter where they're actually doing like the events. First counter, I walked straight up to it. I'm like, I want that commander deck. Don't even pretend to tell me that it's out of stock, because I will fight anybody for it. And then I want a bundle, because I haven't gotten a bundle forever, and I wanted to get a bundle. And the bundle has 9 packs in it, okay? And then I got my pre-con commander deck, and that was the only thing that I was going to buy other than the pre-release. Then I go back to go pay for the pre-release, and they don't have any. So we went and sat down and like, you know what, kids, I have an idea. You guys stay here, watch our stuff. I went and I bought 9 more packs, and I came back to them, and I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. It's just the 3 of us. We have 18 packs. We're going to split them 6 each. And we're going to have our own little pre-release. We're going to open these, we're going to make decks, and we're all going to play against each other.
There used to be a time when you couldn't get packs at a pre-release unless you were part of the pre-release.
Yeah, we shouldn't have been able to. I don't think the store was supposed to sell me any of the stuff that they did, but I bought it all anyway. So, bad on them, I guess, but good for us.
All right, we won't name them.
We won't name names. Gamers Guild, sponsor the podcast. But so it was it was actually really fun watching my son play with his best friend, because here's the thing. There is no universe where they would have finished on time, these 2 playing against each other, because they were doing the thing that best friends do and like ribbing each other about every single play that they were making, and like going like over the top
I'm
dramatic
glad your son
stuff.
has somebody like that.
They had a blast, and I had a blast watching them and taking pictures for the first hour.
It's too bad you had to go rogue.
Yeah, I had to go rogue to get that experience.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And you're a dedicated fan. I think Wizards of the Coast is taking you for granted, Josh.
And one of these days, Ben,
instead of just rage quitting,
this is a joke from basketball. This is a real.
You're like an abused abused lover that just keeps coming back.
Listen, you guys keep making fun of me, and I'm getting sick of it. All right, you do it 15 or 16 more times, and I'm out of here.
And who's counting?
Right. Okay, so that's...
Okay, but you still haven't said what the problem is. Like, this is a best-selling set. Okay, it costs 50% more.
Here's the problem. We are here in June instead of October.
Right.
And Ben, I'm 100% convinced, they moved the date of this, their admittedly biggest convention of the year, to coincide with Final Fantasy instead of any other set that they're going to release this year, knowing that 1, it was going to be the best selling, and 2, that it was going to cost 50% more than any other set.
Huh. Wow. Okay. Well, I can't say I've seen any evidence to the contrary as we've been in this convention. It's been huge. There's tons of people there. It's been very popular. I've heard lots of cheering and shouting. I've seen tons of cosplay of Final Fantasy characters. Way more than I've seen of, like, classic Magic characters.
Yeah.
I've seen some.
Normally when you go to these, the cosplayers are all the people that are in the cosplay contest. Like, we've seen multiple people that had nothing to do with the cosplay contest.
Just showed up dressed as Final Fantasy just because.
I saw a girl dressed as Tifa Lockhart, which is a female fighting character in the game.
Uh-huh.
I saw a dude dressed as Tifa Lockhart, who is a female fighting character in the game. And I'm not going to lie, Ben, the second time I walked past him while he was drafting a deck, I bumped his chair and had him turn around and said, "You're the best Tifa Lockhart I've seen here today."
I'm sure you made his day. Okay. I still don't get it. What's the problem?
That's my problem. Did
they made it earlier? You think it's just a cynical cash grab, but why are you against it?
I'm against it because I anybody that listens to this podcast long enough knows I rail against the fact this is Final Fantasy. This is not Magic. Yes, they did a great job. Yes, the mechanics on the cards are great. Yes, I'm having a wonderful time playing this. This is not Magic. Where are my Magic villains?
That feels like such a weak yes, but.
It's such a weak. This is going to encourage them to do more of this nonsense. We already have...
That's it. This is the bottom line that Josh is getting at.
50% of the sets that they're releasing...
He doesn't want this to keep happening, but he knows it's going to.
50%. Ben, 50%. Half of all the sets of Magic are not Magic anymore. And now, another Universes Beyond thing has just been the most profitable thing that they had.
Yep.
Ben, we are 2 years away from not having any
I know.
Magic.
It feels like the boardroom from the Hudsucker Proxy, where there's a bunch of guys in suits sitting around staring at the chart of the line going up and up and up on the graph and going, "Boys, let's do more of this."
Yeah. Why do we even employ writers? Why do we even employ our own in-universe storytelling people? Why do we have our own artists when all of these external IPs are going to provide us with all of this stuff?
I'd like to think that somebody in that boardroom is smart enough to know there aren't another 20 Final Fantasies out there that they can just pay a little 50% more to buy their intellectual property and have a
yes there are
greedy cash grab.
There is no bottom to this well, Ben.
I disagree. I mean, look what happened to the Fallout set or the Assassin's Creed set.
They disappeared into obscurity because they were not released into standard. They were released as Commander, or I think was it Assassin's Creed? Was that modern only? Like I didn't even know they had. I didn't even think they had a pre-release.
I don't think it was even modern.
Yeah, it was just released.
There was a couple of Commander decks.
Yeah, it was ancillary products, and that was.
I played a little bit of it online, and I did not like it. It did not play well.
Okay.
I did like a draft or two, and I was just like, I don't know these characters. The mechanics aren't fun. It's.
Ben, you and I are both like. I am reluctantly excited for the Avatar: The Last Airbender set that's going to come out at the end of the year.
I'm not reluctantly excited. I am unabashedly excited about it.
See, but that's the problem. Like, we are 2 years away from having a Bluey Magic set. Name a popular thing, and that's just going to be Magic.
It's going to be like that Ryan Reynolds movie where he was an NPC in a video game.
Yeah, Free Guy.
It's just there's going to be everything, and it doesn't matter. It's just all there.
Yeah, we already had.
Welcome to Everything World, where everything is everything.
Yeah. And in the Magic game, all right, so Commander, which is the format that I play, you can use any cards that have been released in Magic. It's going to get so ridiculous. It's like, I'm playing the Fallout Commander, but I've got a lot of Lord of the Rings inspired decks.
And Spider-Man and
then Spider-Man's going to
Avatar: The Last Airbender and
I'm going to cast Earthbending on Spider-Man.
But not if you're playing online, then Spider-Man doesn't exist.
Oh, don't get me. Yeah, okay, stop. That's a Disney thing. So this is my problem: is that these extremely positive results are vectoring the game that I love away from the reasons that I love it.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree with you on that part. You're right. It's just reinforcing this in the way that's the most reinforcing of all reinforcing, which is people making money.
Okay. While we're on this topic, I'm going to now switch to the second thing I want to talk about the Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering.
Oh, is Josh going to take back some of what he just said?
I'm going to talk about how I was so enraptured by something that came out in this set that I made poor financial decisions to acquire.
I don't know. I think that Nicole, he was being responsible, I promise. Okay, go ahead. Tell us the story.
Okay. All right. So I like pre-releases. I said that before, right? And so I'm looking at
this. Feels like a callback to episode 1.
It really
Josh
does.
and I are at a Magic convention, and Josh becomes obsessed with getting something that's available at the Magic convention.
And obsessed is the right word. And like, because when the spoilers were first coming out, like one of the
I know
things
you sent them to me. And I was like, whatever, it's a Magic card. You're like, no, Ben, you don't understand.
They spoiled a specific card that's in the Commander set, because of course we can't just have a normal set. It's got to have the set and then the corresponding Commander cards that come out with it, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Okay. They had an alternate art treatment of one of the Commanders for their pre-con Commander decks. And it's an alternate art treatment that can only be acquired in like specific ways. It's super hard and super rare and blah, 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 blah. But Ben, this alternate art is so pretty. I can't. The best way I have to this is how it grabbed my brain. It like reached through my eyeballs and just grabbed my spinal cord and would not let go. And I can prove it because I have had the same browser tab open on my phone for the past 4 months.
I brought it up and you like, oh, you mean this? And you showed it to me within like 3 seconds of me talking about it.
This card, I have had the art of this card open on my phone as the primary first tab of my browser.
This is how you got that Chandra
months.
playmat in episode 1.
This is how I got the Chandra playmat in episode 1. It grabbed me and I could not physically walk away from it until I acquired it. This card, though, because it only comes in collector boosters and it's an alternate art and it's super rare and just, it has always, like, on the prices, it has always been $200. Like, since the time they spoiled it, people have been willing to pay $200 for this card. And I keep looking at it like, I cannot justify spending $200 on a piece of cardboard. But then, Ben, I went to the pre-release and I didn't get a seat in the pre-release. And so I bought packs and I opened packs and I opened an alternate art treatment of Ancient Copper Dragon.
Which is really valuable.
And when the night that I opened it, it was selling on TCG Player for $150. Now, that was 2 weeks ago. Today, it's on the open market, it's closer to like $80.
Okay.
But like when I opened that card, I was like, I told the kids, I put it in a sleeve that second. I'm like, this is going to be the first card that I've ever go and actually try to sell for money.
Okay.
Because otherwise, like, we always say, like, oh, this card is worth this card is worth this. And that's always facetious because I know in my heart of hearts, this card is going to die with me. It's either going to be in a deck or it's going to be in a box.
This is true of anything. This Bitcoin is worth $50,000. Well, not until you sell it, it isn't.
But I've never sold a Magic card. I have never given up a piece of Magic cardboard for cash money.
You're what Magic store owners call a black hole.
Yes, exactly. So, but this was
the first... You only acquire...
I only acquire. This was the first card that I was willing to go and sell for cash monies because I realized that this dragon, like, it's a great card in the game, but it's not a commander. And so it's just going to be one of 99 other cards in a deck that we play, once a month? And, like, that's not, like, I want to get more financial value out of it by selling the thing for $150.
Yeah, but you're kind of contradicting what you're about to say next.
What did I say next? I didn't.
You're going to acquire Y'shtola.
Okay, hang on.
That's going to sit in your deck that you're only going to play once a month.
So that night at the pre-release, I sleeved it and I took it to their card set. I was like, hey, will you buy this for me? And they said, no, we wait 2 weeks after any release for the market to settle. And again, that served them well because it started at 150 and it went down to 80. This weekend, we got premium weekend passes because, we're posh like that. And part of the extra stuff that you get for the premium is we got 2 collector boosters from Final Fantasy.
Yeah, and you insisted on opening them right away. And you were anxious to get your hands on yours. I was like, yeah, calm down. We'll get them later. You're like, no!
I want to make sure they don't run out. Because here's the thing. When we bought these premium passes, the difference between a weekend pass and a premium weekend pass was like $70, right?
Yeah.
Like going for the upgrade.
Which is a bargain for those...
Yeah, those packs are each those packs are worth $80 a piece right now.
Right.
So we got a ton of extra value just by getting those 2 packs. We didn't know that at the time we got the badges, but that was great. And so I ripped both of mine open the second I got it. I almost had to do it with my teeth. I wanted it so bad because I wanted to open the Y'shtola, and those are the only packs you can get them as the collector packs. I did not get the Y'shtola. Instead, I got the same kind of art treatment for a different card. That card is selling for $60 this weekend.
Okay, so you got the $80 dragon and the $60 tower.
Then, in one of the events that I was playing earlier, it's the Mystery Booster 2. All the limited events I signed up for was Mystery Booster 2 because I know that there's some great value and some great cards in there. And I opened a foil Future Sight super ultra rare Command Tower. Like it's just a really incredibly rare card that's very commonly played, and this is the only place that you can get that art treatment in that style. Blah, blah,
High
blah.
demand, low supply, classic recipe for
Classic. But again, it fell into the space in my mind as the Ancient Copper Dragon. Yeah, this card is cool, but it's going to be one card in a deck of 100 that I play once a month. And that was by far the most valuable thing that I had ever opened, I think, is that foil Command Tower. And so I went on a side quest. As soon as I was done with that event, I told you, like, Ben, I'm on the hunt. And I took those 3 sleeved cards and I walked around. I did not tell you this part of the story. I sat down at 3 different vendors to trade these cards until I found one that actually gave me a halfway decent deal on them.
Oh, wow. So you shopped around.
I shopped around. And this is a thing that happens at these conventions. It
was only these 3. You were like, hey, what are you giving me for these 3?
Yeah, what are you going to give me for these 3? What are you going to give me for these 3? Like, one of them was like, oh, we're only doing store credit. Like, that's fine. Do you have Y'shtola? I must have Y'shtola. She will be mine. And they're like, no, we don't have it. And then I got up in a huff and I went to the next place. And I had to wait in line, and I sat down, and it was garbage. They were going to give me like 40% of their value, and I just like got up and walked away. And I found the other place, they were giving me like a 60% of the value, but then they brought it up to 80% if I was willing to take it in store credit. And I said, I'll take it in store credit if you have this specific card in this specific treatment that I'm looking for. And they did. And he did the right thing. The guy, he was DJ at, I don't remember the place, Tor Gaming or something. And because...
I don't remember the place sponsor the podcast.
Yeah, I don't remember the name sponsor the podcast. DJ, I hope he's working 2 16-hour shifts this weekend, so I feel bad for him. But I had my 3 cards down in front of me, like, oh, listen, I'll take the store credit if you have this card. He got up, walked over, got the card I asked for, and put it down in front of me. This is
that's thinking. Well done, DJ.
That's like this is a used car sales tactic, and I recognize it. All right, one part of my brain in the Starship Enterprise.
You want to take it for a test drive? Here's the keys.
Yeah, exactly. The Starship Enterprise in my brain was looking at the card, the physical card, the first time I'd seen it in person, and it's just as beautiful as the internet promised me that it was going to be. And one dude in the back, the young lieutenant, was like, you know, he's doing that sales tactic where he's just put in front of us to do it, right? And he was immediately clubbed and shouted down. And
shut up, Wesley.
Shut up, Wesley. No one cares. And yeah, so I traded those 3 cards for Y'shtola and $20 of store credit.
Okay. All right. Fair.
And I am holding it in my hand, Ben. I keep pulling it out, and I've been looking at it all night, and it is so pretty and so beautiful, and I love it to death.
Okay. So that reminds me, I think there's something we need to do right now to commemorate this anniversary of the podcast.
Did you buy stuff?
No. I've had this for years, and I've been
how I feel about
I've been
karma.
hanging on to it for this purpose, for this moment on this day to commemorate the 6th anniversary of the Baddick Magic podcast.
If you proposed to me, I'm telling you no.
I have here 2 cards that you and I are going to autograph. Okay. So we'll use this
in real time.
Yep.
Listeners, I'm just as confused as you are. Oh, you bastard.
Isn't that awesome?
Oh, you did it. Okay. I'm too giddy. Okay, listeners, Ben is a jackass. What he did, the playmat that captured my brain, my imagination, that I could not walk away from in the first episode of the Bad Magic podcast is a alternate art of a terrible Chandra Planeswalker that was only done on the Japanese cards. And he just set down 2 of that card in full Japanese with that art in front of me. And she is just as gorgeous as she is on my playmat. That's fantastic.
So I figured what we could do is we could both autograph them, and then we'll both have a copy that we can like frame and hang on to and keep as memento of the founding of the podcast.
This will have to go into my signature spell book. That's fantastic. Right. So, don't you dare sign on the art. You sign in the text box.
All right.
You sign over the art. What's the matter with you? He puts his pen over the art that I just talked about, how it like crippled my brain with decision paralysis.
That's funny because I practiced, but that wasn't one of the things I thought about.
That's so cool. I don't even know how to.
I've never written on a magic card like that before. It's kind of nice.
I have a terrible signature, but you're just going to have to deal with it.
Sweet. So here's a sleeve, and now you have one, and I have one.
Okay, this is actually really cool. Thank you, Ben. You and my wife, you're like ultra thoughtful people when it comes to gift giving. This is something that has so much meaning, and you suck.
That's awesome.
There is no universe where I'm going to come up with anything half this thoughtful for you.
Well, I guess we got another day. We're going to do the thing tomorrow where we're going to do the Hot Ones episode. So that should be out by the time this podcast is published. So we'll put a link to it in the podcast.
That's going to be awful.
Show notes.
You realize that we're doing the Hot Ones thing. Like, we're going to eat like millions of Scoville worth of chemical weaponry and then get in our cars and
for a 5-hour drive.
Hours. Yeah, that's really dumb. They're like... I already apologize to every rest stop between Las Vegas and Arizona because I'm going to destroy every one of them.
Oh, man. I hope that's not true, but it might be. I guess I'm ready for the possibility. What we do for the show. All right, listeners, if you heard something you like and you want to interact with us, we've had our community's been growing lately. We've got lots of people coming on our Facebook page and our subreddit and interacting with our posts, giving questions, suggestions, cross posts, and it's all been good stuff. I love seeing the community grow and interacting with you, and I love hearing what you have to say. In fact, we've run into, dozen or so listeners here at the convention this time, and it really feels like a gathering of the community, and maybe that'll continue to grow as the years go on. Here we are 6 years in, and I don't see any signs of us slowing down. So come and join in the community and be part of that, which has become the Bad and Magic podcast.
I spent 2 months talking on the podcast, asking people to come out so we can play a full Commander pod. And then Ben has the audacity to get an all-listener Commander pod going while I'm playing in a different event.
Oh, sorry. There's still another day. We'll do it.
There's another day. We'll figure it out. If you like what we do, share us with a friend. If you're here at MagicCon Vegas or you're listening to us because we saw you here today, welcome. Ben, I don't know what to say. I'm staring at the two most beautiful pieces of magic art that I've ever seen, and I'm done talking. I'm just going to Google these for a while.
Well, then, until next time, try to be a little less bad at magic.